Hey, it's Chris. Marvel Zombicide, the latest edition from CMON, White Death, is upon us. What do you need to know? Is it that dramatically different from the previous medieval versions? And should you back it? Is it worth it? Let's talk. Let's do this. What I've done here at the beginning is, if you're wondering what is new about this Zombicide, what's different? Why should I get this one? How different actually is it? I read through the rulebook. I compiled it all. I'm going to tell you right now, what do you need to know that's going to set it apart? Are any of these differences going to be enough to help you figure out whether or not you should be getting it, right? It still sticks with the tried and true Zombicide method if you need to play with 6 survivors. So that is the main thing that I'll offer as point number one in this, bigger point of what's different is, are you willing to play 6 characters, especially if you have 1, 2, or 3 people playing? You need to be able to do more than one character. Can you manage it? It's not terribly complicated, but do you like playing that style of game? The other thing that you have to know is you're getting 2 skill cards to start out with, and one of them is actually going to be for an NPC. You have guard characters in this game that are basically one-shot allies of yours that are going to be on top of the battlements and elsewhere in the city or the zones that you're defending, and you have actions that you can spend instead of using your character on them individually. However many that are in one particular zone, you can activate all of them at a time, and that includes attacking. Then the other thing you need to know is that, unlike previous other Zombicide, they've done a few streamlining things to prevent AI cluster fruitcakes, if you will, where the zombies get stuck somewhere or the zombies get barred by something and they just can't get to you, so you can kind of like cheat the game, if you will. So they've, 1, removed doors. There's no more doors. 2, if there is an open path to get to you, they will take the open path, even if it's not the shortest path, meaning you can't just hide behind like a stairwell or something like that they can't get around because they just go in a straight line. So they've eliminated those things as well. They've eliminated the spawn zone lose condition as well. If you get a certain number of spawn zones spawned, you can just lose in some of the other base games. In addition to that, there is no ranged ammo. You do not have to pick up a card that says, hey, this is a bucket of, hey, this is a ranged amount of arrows or weapons or whatever it may be bullet wise that you may need to reload. Now, there are weapons that reload that will take you a turn or an action to do so, but it does not mean that you need to take up one of your 8 selective skill or equipment card slots utilizing one of those. And again, going back into that, there's 8 different cards that you can have equipped in your equipment section as a whole, 3 of them on your person at all times, and then you have 5 in the actual equipment like storage area that you can swap in and swap out. Then the big difference in all of this is this is sort of a tower defense take on Zombicide. This has battlements, this has ruins within the battlements, and ruins within the battlements are basically like hiding spots. You can't loot them, you can't search them, but the battlements themselves are considered raised. You actually have to go climb upstairs or go up a rope ladder. If the zombies fall, they don't take any fall damage. It's just what happens to them if you like push them off. But you can drop cauldrons on them, cauldrons of full of liquid that will kill even abominations. And that's one of the few ways in this game to kill abominations, because if you're familiar with the base game, you need 3 damage to do an abomination in. Abominations, though, just like necromancers, are going to be offering higher levels of loot. So that's going to be slightly similar, slightly different to the previous ones. There's a couple different modes. There is a multi-necromancer, multi-abomination mode, but it is not completely compatible with the other necromancer modes from the other ones, Black Plague and Green Horde. So you just need to be fully aware that it's not going to be completely compatible with those 2, but it's going to be the majority compatible. Then you're also going to have corruption. Corruption is the other big new mechanic with this one, where you're going to have corruption that's going to crawl across zones. And if the corruption in a majority of these quest missions or overall scenarios that you're doing get to the beacon, or potentially even the starting spot where the beacon may be located, depending on what sort of mission or quest it is, then you lose. And these corruption zones basically just make this trail of slime, it looks like, and they head across and they just make their way through those zones and they destroy what those zones were. So they no longer have any special effects, they no longer have elevation, they no longer affect line of sight. All of those things are just kind of taken away, anything that was special about it in the first place. Then you also have another freeze skill, which is the other big thing, is if you put a freeze skill down in an area, if you somehow manipulate it so that there's one there, it freezes everything in that zone. Nothing in that zone gets activated for that turn. It's removed at the end of the turn. Last thing you need to know is all of your characters with the typical CMON flair are going to be upgradable. You have AP, adrenaline points in this case, instead of experience points, and the adrenaline points are going to range from blue, yellow, orange to red. And as you unlock them on the skill cards, you'll see that skills are going to be unlocked. 2, 2, 2, 3, along those lines, each level that you get. And those are based on killing zombies, eating food, doing missions, doing quests, that sort of thing. And as you get to the end, you're getting more skills, you're getting better skills. It actually lists out all the skills that are listed, at least right now in the game, at the end of the rule book. And there are a total, yes, I counted them up, there are a total of 75 if I counted correctly. And it gives it more of a D&D vibe with a lot of those skills that you're going to recognize. They're going to give you actions, they're going to give you extra skills, they're going to give you extra rolls, they're going to give you +1 to this, better armor that. And so a lot of them are going to be easily recognizable if you have any experience with that sort of thing. Dual wielding, ambidextrous, I mean, very typical trope things that you're going to recognize. So those are all of the big differences. Those are all the big notables reading through the rulebook. Is that enough to entice you one way or the other? Because point number 2, it's not terribly different than Black Plague or Green Horde. If you're looking for something terribly different, you need to go to a different iteration. You're better off picking up, say, Marvel Zombies at this point. Now, I imagine as point number 3, we're also going to see Buko expansions. And how much are the expansions going to add? Where's the divergence going to be? Because as we saw with both of those other previous medieval versions, Black Plague and Green Horde, you have some different mechanics stored in some of the expansions as well. And so how are those going to be integrated? There weren't a whole lot of hints like we saw in the Marvel Zombies rulebook to tell us, what to expect a little bit in that sense. We saw, some keen-eyed observers when that launched, but this one doesn't really give a whole lot of hints. But if anything holds true, CMON's all-in value, again, as the next point here, will be somewhere probably between 300 and 500 if you're going to get all of the gameplay content, plus or minus, depending on the add-ons that are deluxifications that will go along with it. Is that going to be a make it or break it for you from an all-in standpoint? Now, I'm going to counter that with the next point and say, if you're really looking to make money, yeah, you can make money on this. If we pull up here for a second, recent eBay selling list, now these are sold ones, these are completed ones, you start to see, okay, 600, 500, 400, 400, and most of these aren't even like whole all-ins, right? This one is, just the Kickstarter exclusive box with a base game almost, or just sometimes the Kickstarter exclusive box right here, selling for somewhere near $300. I mean, we're talking years later, right? And here you have Black Plague. It runs you through a few of these. Again, a lot of Green Horde thrown in there, but here you go with a Black Plague one for about 300 as well. So it's going to hold value from that aspect of things. There's no question. If you're going to FOMO from that aspect of things, there's not really a better game or game series on crowdfunding to do that. So if you want to buy it and flip it, I mean, it just depends on how long you're willing to hold on to it. And are you willing to take a hit potentially if you just don't want to hold on to it that long, right? Or with some of the other lines, it's been hit or miss. And that's where sometimes the Kickstarter exclusive box is going to be your best pledge. The $110 pledge level right now is by far and away the best pledge you ever want to get. The expansions are going to be hit or miss, just like we saw with Marvel United, just like we're going to see with Marvel Zombies when all of that comes out. Some are just going to be more popular. Some are just going to be better. Some are just going to be more in desire, depending on how many people also got them, how flooded the market is going to be as well. And not that Zombicide has been nearly as flooded as some of the more recent Marvel Uniteds, but Zombicide is also held up much better from a grander retail side of things that sells once people get into it. And so it's having more wide market mass appeal for people that are not intensely waist deep into the hobby. And so if you're looking at it from that standpoint as well, again, can you hold on to it for 2 or 3 years and, probably double your money or even more, depending on, eBay that I just showed you. So basically what we know at this point is it's a slightly varied version of the previous medieval games that are going to give you slight tweaks, slight twists here, and to be questioned what else is going to go along with it. Because right now I would make the argument that, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for something dramatically different, no, you don't get this at all. If you're looking for as a good entry point, yeah, I think it probably looks more solid, it's more polished, it's more well-rounded than probably the other medieval versions with some of those changes I mentioned at the beginning. So your mileage may vary, but you also may want to see what expansions they have in store, and that might be the ultimate break it or not for you in terms of the bank, because if they can offer some more variety and some more just ways of playing it, you're going to get plenty of content. You're going to get enough zombies. You're going to get runners, tons of abominations. Your necromancers. You're going to have way too many heroes that you've never played through. So it's really not do you have enough content? Is there going to be much of replayability? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be easy to hit the table? I mean, those things that are often part of this, should you back or not, are not really an issue here. You know what those lines are going to be already in terms of that. But do you have a good core group that's going to be cooperative, light, dice rolling, and playing up to 6 heroes at a time between all of you? So that's what you need to be aware of. Food for thought. Should you back it? That's the question. There you go. Let me know what you think. Let me know. Comments down below. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more of this. Shoot me a message. I'm always up for talking. Stay classy. Have a great day.